When I gave my name at the entrance to my sister-in-law's wedding, the receptionist lowered her eyes and told me I was not on the guest list. When I called my husband, he laughed and asked if I had really thought I was invited. I stood in the lobby of a luxury hotel in Polanco, wearing a dark blue dress, heels that were already cutting into my feet, and holding a small silver box in both hands. Inside the ballroom, I could hear violins, crystal glasses, and elegant laughter. Outside, I was holding the gift that was about to turn that perfect wedding into a national embarrassment. Please check again, I told the young woman at the reception desk. Luna Navarro de Cárdenas. Maybe I'm listed under my husband's name, Ivan Cardenas. She went through the pages one more time, wearing the kind of pity on her face that a woman recognizes before the humiliation is spoken out loud. I'm sorry, ma'am. You are not listed at any of the Cardenas family tables. I took out my phone and called Ivan. He answered with music and voices behind him. Ivan, they are saying I'm not invited. He did not even step away to speak to me. Luna, did you really think you were invited? I went cold. I'm your wife. And you're also the person who tried to ruin Renata's wedding with your little performances. Don't make a scene. Go home. Then he hung up. In 5 years of marriage, I had learned how to swallow that tone. Ivan could be kind when it benefited him, polished in public, charming at corporate dinners. But when it came to his family, especially Renata, I was always the dramatic one, the difficult one, the woman who did not understand how things worked in an important family. Renata Cardenas was his younger sister, Dona Teresa's spoiled princess, the darling of a family that talked about charity in public and money in private. Her wedding to Mateo Lujan was supposed to be the event of the year, business leaders, politicians, donors, and society reporters. According to her, it had all been paid for with family love. The lie began 2 months earlier, when Grace Molina, director of the Esperanza Cardenas Foundation, called me. I worked as a financial compliance auditor for foundations and nonprofit organizations. My job was to follow the trail of money. Most people found that boring. I knew money always confessed. Luna, could you look into some strange expenses? Grace asked me. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But it was serious. There were invoices for imported flowers, a private banquet, custom lighting, live music, and a designer wedding cake. Every charge had been taken from the scholarship fund for low-income students. And every authorization carried my digital signature. Mine, that night, I confronted Ivan. Renata is paying for her wedding with scholarship money. He barely looked at the documents. She's going to pay it back. You don't borrow money like that. It belongs to students. Don't be dramatic. It's a wedding. That was when I understood. Ivan was not unaware of the lie. He was protecting it. Renata called me 3 days later. Luna, if you're planning to come and make people uncomfortable with your papers, maybe you shouldn't come at all. Are you uninviting me? I'm protecting my day. I thought Ivan would never allow it. But now I was standing in the lobby, my name erased from the guest list, his laugh still lodged in my ear. The receptionist stepped closer, nervous. Would you like me to call someone from the family? I looked toward the ballroom. I saw enormous chandeliers, orchid centerpieces, cameras, glittering gowns, and the gift table covered with envelopes, expensive boxes, and gold ribbons. Then I walked over calmly. I placed my silver box between two oversized packages and left the card facing up. For Renata. Congratulations. Luna. I did not shout. I did not cry. I did not beg to be let inside. I simply left the truth sitting on the gift table, then I walked out of the hotel and got into a taxi. To the airport, please. As the car pulled away from the lights of Polanco, I turned off my phone. Because when Renata opened my gift in front of everyone, she was going to scream my name. And this time, I was not going to answer. I did not go to the airport to run away. I went because I needed to be somewhere nobody knew the Cardenas name, somewhere screens announced flights instead of family lies. I sat by a window with cold coffee and watched the runway lights while I imagined the wedding continuing without me. Renata would be entering the ballroom like a queen. Dona Teresa would be bragging about her philanthropic family. Ivan would be smiling as if he had not just thrown his wife out over the phone. Everyone would believe they had controlled the problem. They did not know the problem was wrapped in silver paper. The box contained 4 things. First, a forensic audit report showing every transfer taken from the scholarship fund. Second, the temporary legal order freezing the accounts of the Esperanza Cardenas Foundation. Third, the board's letter appointing me as external compliance supervisor. Fourth, a personal check from me to pay the honest wedding vendors, because the florist, servers, and musicians were not responsible for Renata's corruption. On top, I left a handwritten note: scholarship money is not wedding decoration. At 10:17, my phone began to vibrate. First Renata. Then Ivan. Then Dona Teresa. Then an unknown number I guessed belonged to Mateo, the groom. I did not answer. I only read Grace's message. The accounts are frozen. The donors have seen everything. The scholarships are protected, for the first time in weeks, I breathed. Later, I learned exactly how it happened. Renata decided to open a few gifts before dessert so the photographer could capture the moment. She picked up my silver box with a smug smile. At least she sent something, she said. People laughed, then she opened the lid. First, she read the report. Then she saw the seal on the court order. The color drained from her face under the golden lights. Donna Teresa asked what was wrong. Renata tried to hide the papers, but Grace was already there, standing beside several donors. Renata, that document belongs to the board, Grace said. Ivan rushed toward her. Give me that. But Mateo had already read one line. You used scholarship money to pay for our wedding? Renata started shaking. That's not what happened. Luna is trying to destroy me. Grace's voice stayed firm. The audit is independent. And the false authorizations came from the Cardenas residence. The ballroom went silent. Then Renata looked at Ivan and made the worst mistake of her life. You said she would never dare. Everyone heard it. Donna Teresa sat down as if someone had taken the bones out of her body. The donors started demanding explanations. Mateo stepped away from Renata. Ivan kept calling my number again and again. I watched my phone vibrate on the airport table, and I did not feel revenge. I felt relief. For years, I had answered every call from that family. I fixed accounts, softened problems, and kept quiet so they could keep looking perfect. That night was the first time I let them face their own reflection. At midnight, I received another message from Grace. A student named Marisol will keep her scholarship because of this. That was when I understood. I had not left a gift to ruin a wedding. I had left a gift to save futures. Ivan arrived at my apartment 3 days later. He did not knock like a husband. He knocked like the lawyer of a family in crisis, 3 dry, calculated strikes. When I opened the door, his beard was unshaven, his tie was loose, and his eyes were sunken. We need to talk. We already talked when you asked me if I really thought I was invited. He stepped inside as if he still had the right to occupy my space. He looked at my small living room, my audit books, and the coffee mug on the table. Everything he had always called my square little world. You could have handled this privately, he said. I tried. I showed you the reports. It was my sister's wedding. And it was the future of a lot of students. He dragged a hand over his face. Renata made a mistake. No. A mistake is typing the wrong number. She diverted scholarship funds and used my authorization. She was going to pay it back. After the wedding looked beautiful, right? He did not answer. I pulled a folder from a drawer and handed it to him. He opened it with irritation, but his expression changed when he saw the first page. What is this? Divorce papers. The silence weighed more than any scream. You're ending our marriage over a wedding? I looked at him almost tenderly. How easy it was for him to shrink everything down to a party. No. I am ending it because when you had to choose between the truth and your sister's lie, you chose the lie. And when they humiliated me at the door, you were not my husband. You were her accomplice. Ivan lowered his eyes. My family is destroyed. I didn't destroy it. The truth did. Renata could lose her reputation. Those students almost lost their future. His jaw trembled, but he did not cry. Ivan was not a man of tears. He was a man of control, and that night he no longer controlled anything. Luna, we can still fix this. I don't want to fix a life where my silence is required. He signed weeks later. The divorce was quiet, but the investigation was not. The board confirmed the misuse of funds. Renata was removed from the foundation and forced to repay every peso. Donna Teresa lost her honorary position. Several donors stepped away at first, but they came back when they saw new rules, public audits, and real transparency. Renata's wedding stayed in the news for 2 weeks. Not because of the dress, or the flowers, or the chandeliers in Polanco. Because of the silver box. Mateo did not annul the marriage, but he separated from her 1 month later. I do not know if it was wounded love or fear of being tied to the scandal. I did not care much either way. I had other things to rebuild. 6 months later, I was sitting in the auditorium of a public university in Toluca. On stage, a 19-year-old girl held a certificate with trembling hands. Her name was Marisol Hernandez. Her mother sold tamales outside a middle school, and her father had died when she was 11. Thanks to the restructured fund, Marisol would study biomedical engineering. I thought college was for other people, she said into the microphone. But someone protected this scholarship when she could have stayed silent. My throat tightened. When the ceremony ended, Marisol stepped down from the stage and searched for me in the crowd. Are you Luna? I nodded. She hugged me without asking permission. My mom says thank you. I did not know what to say. I just held her and thought about every time the Cardenas family had called me dramatic for protecting numbers. Those numbers were tuition, books, bus fare, and dreams. They were girls like Marisol. After the ceremony, Grace handed me a folder with the new scholarship program. The board wants you to stay on as permanent supervisor. I smiled. I'll accept on one condition. What condition? No Cardenas touches an account again without an external audit. Grace burst out laughing. Done. That afternoon, I walked alone through downtown Toluca. I bought sweet bread, coffee, and a new notebook. I did not feel victorious like people do in movies. I felt clean. Lighter. As if I had left not only documents on that gift table, but years of obedience. Sometimes people think being reasonable means staying quiet so no one feels uncomfortable. I believed that too. I thought loving a husband meant protecting his family, even when that family used me as a shield. But I learned late that peace built on lies is not peace. It is a cage decorated with flowers. Now I live near Coyoacan, in an apartment with bougainvillea on the balcony and a table where I work without apologizing. My phone rings less. My life weighs less. And every time a student receives her scholarship, I remember Ivan's voice on that call. Did you really think you were invited? No, Ivan. I was not invited to your wedding, but the truth was,